The council chamber was silent. Tae-Yang stood before the gathered leaders of the Vrylon Dominion, his forearms clasped behind his back. The holographic display showed a small cluster of stars, barely visible against the vast map of their empire. "These are the humans," said Council Elder Vextar, his voice carrying contempt. "They have taken 47 systems that belong to us by right of conquest." Tai-Yang studied the map. The human territory was tiny compared to the Dominion's 3,000 systems. They had been expanding for only 200 years. The Vrylon had ruled the galaxy for 100,000 years. "This should be simple. What do we know about them?" Tae-Yang asked. Ye-Jin stepped forward. She was his strategic officer and the smartest mind he had ever worked with. Her silver skin gleamed under the chamber lights. "They come from a world called Earth. They are physically weak. No natural armor, no enhanced strength, no telepathic abilities. They use primitive kinetic weapons alongside basic energy technology." "Kinetic weapons?" Vextar laughed. "They still throw metal at each other?" "It appears so, Elder," Ye-Jin said. She tapped her datapad. "But there is something unusual in their cultural data. They show patterns of extreme persistence. Their history is filled with wars among themselves. Thousands of years of constant conflict." Tae-Yang waved a dismissive hand. "All young species fight themselves. They will learn to fear a true power." "Perhaps," Ye-Jin said quietly, "but their psychological profiles are concerning. They have very high pain tolerance. They do not surrender easily." "Then they will die bravely," Tae-Yang said. He turned to the council. "Give me the Apex fleet, 10,000 warships, 500 million soldiers. I will bring these humans to heal within 1 year." The council agreed immediately. Tae-Yang was the greatest military commander in their history. He had never lost a battle. His strategies were studied by every officer in the Dominion. If anyone could crush this human nuisance quickly, it was him. Du-hyun met Tae-Yang in the war room 3 days later. The battlemaster was massive even by Vrylon standards, his body covered in scars from 100 campaigns. "The assault legions are ready, Commander. We can deploy within the week." "Good." Tae-Yang pulled up tactical displays. "We will strike their frontier colonies first. Show them our power. They will surrender quickly once they see what they face." Dr. Jiwoo entered the room, carrying a data tablet. The xenobiologist looked worried. "Commander, I have completed my analysis of human physiology. You should see this." Tae-Yang glanced at the report. "They are fragile. Weak bones, thin skin, no natural weapons. What is there to worry about?" "Their endurance, sir." Jiwoo highlighted several graphs. "Their bodies are built for persistence. They can run for hours without stopping. They heal quickly from injuries. And their brains are wired strangely. They have very high stress tolerance. Pain that would incapacitate most species barely slows them down. Interesting but irrelevant." Tae-Yang closed the report. "They will break like all the others." The Apex fleet gathered at the staging point. 10,000 ships, each one a masterpiece of Vrylon engineering. The smallest destroyer carried enough firepower to level a city. The largest dreadnoughts could crack planets. Tae-Yang stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance, and felt the familiar surge of pride. Ye-Jin joined him at the observation window. "The fleet report's ready, Commander. We can jump to human space on your order. Have you finished analyzing their defenses?" "Yes, sir." She pulled up holographic data. "They have approximately 2,000 warships total. Most are converted civilian vessels. Their actual military fleet is less than 500 ships. We outnumber them 20 to 1. 20 to 1. Tae-Yang smiled. "This will be over before it begins. Sir, I must advise caution." Ye-Jin's voice was careful. "Their tactics are unusual. They do not fight like other species we have encountered. They use deception, false retreats, psychological warfare. They study their enemies and adapt quickly. You worry too much, old friend." Tae-Yang placed a hand on her shoulder. "We are Vrylon. We have conquered thousands of species. These humans are no different. They will see our power and they will kneel." "I hope you are right, Commander." The fleet jumped to hyperspace. The journey to human territory took 3 days. During that time, Tae-Yang reviewed everything they knew about the humans. It was not much. They were a young species, barely out of their home system 2 centuries ago. They had fought among themselves for most of their history. Somehow they had finally unified and begun exploring the stars. Their technology was primitive but functional. They still used chemical rockets in some areas. Their weapons were a mix of old and new. They had no telepathy, no psionic abilities, no biological enhancements. By every measure, they should be easy to defeat. But something nagged at Taeyang. Heijin's warning about their persistence. Jiwoo's report about their unusual stress tolerance. The way their history showed constant brutal warfare among their own kind. What did it mean when a species spent 10,000 years fighting itself? He pushed the thoughts away. It did not matter. The Vrylon Dominion had never lost a war. They would not start now. The fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of human territory. The first target was a frontier colony called New Terra. According to intelligence, it housed about 2 million humans and was lightly defended. Scan the system, Taeyang ordered. The sensor officer worked quickly. Confirmed, sir. 1 orbital station, 12 defense platforms, and 6 human warships. They are holding position around the colony. 6 ships against 10,000. It was almost insulting. Open a communication channel to the colony, Taeyang said. Let us give them a chance to surrender. The view screen flickered to life. A human appeared wearing a simple uniform. He looked unremarkable. Soft skin, small frame, no visible weapons or armor. This was their defender. I am Commander Taeyang of the Vrylon Dominion, he announced. You have trespassed in our territory. You will surrender immediately and submit to Dominion authority. Refuse and we will exterminate every living thing in this system. You have 1 hour to decide. The human was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice calm. I am Captain Hyunwoo. We've heard threats like that before, from ourselves mostly. We know how this goes. He paused. You should leave now while you still can. Taeyang felt a flicker of surprise. The human was not afraid. He should be terrified, but instead he was giving warnings. You face 10,000 warships. You have 6. Do you truly think you can resist? Hyunwoo smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen terrible things. You're not the first to think numbers matter most. You won't be the last to learn they don't. The channel closed. Taeyang stared at the blank screen. Around him, the bridge crew was silent. Finally, Do-hyun spoke. Commander, your orders? Taeyang turned back to the tactical display. Begin the attack. Show them what happens when someone defies the Dominion. The Apex fleet moved forward, weapons charging. Behind them, thousands of transport ships carried the assault legions. This would be quick. It had to be. But deep in his mind, Taeyang remembered the human smile. And he wondered. The battle began at dawn, New Terra time. The Vrylon fleet spread across the system like a metal storm. Their weapons lit up the darkness with beams of concentrated energy. The human defense platforms fired back, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. This is going exactly as planned, Do-hyun said from the assault ship. Their defenses are pathetic. Taeyang watched the tactical display. The 6 human warships were moving in strange patterns, never staying in one place. They fired, dodged, and retreated, then attacked again from different angles. It was chaotic and unorganized, or was it? Sir, 3 human ships are breaking formation, the sensor officer reported. They are heading directly toward our dreadnought line. Suicide run, Heijin said. They must know they cannot win. But the human ships did not explode against the Vrylon dreadnoughts. At the last possible moment, they veered away, launching missiles from point-blank range. The Vrylon shields held, but the dreadnoughts had to break formation to avoid collision. They are disrupting our attack pattern, Taeyang realized. Clever. One of the human ships took heavy fire. Its hull ruptured atmosphere, venting into space. But instead of retreating, it accelerated toward a Vrylon destroyer. The Vrylon captain tried to evade, but the human ship clipped the destroyer's engines. Both vessels spun out of control. Did they just ram us? Do-hyun sounded shocked. They sacrificed their ship for a single destroyer? Pull up the wreckage scan, Taeyang ordered.
Check for survivors. The scan showed something impossible.
The human crew had evacuated in escape pods moments before impact. They had made it look like a suicide run, but they had planned to survive all along. They are insane, the weapons officer muttered. No, Hyojin said quietly. They are calculating. They made us think they were desperate and reckless, but every move was planned. Lieutenant Bo-ra piloted her fighter through the Vrylon formations. Her squadron of 12 small craft weaved between the massive warships, too fast for the large weapons to track. They targeted sensors and communication arrays, not trying to destroy the ships but to blind and deafen them. Stay tight, she called to her pilots. Make them waste ammunition on us. A Vrylon frigate fired a spread of missiles at her. Bora dove toward the nearest moon, using its gravity to slingshot around. The missiles followed, but she was faster. At the last second, she pulled up. The missiles could not turn in time. They slammed into the moon's surface. 3 more frigates targeting us, her wingman reported. Good, keep them busy. The big guns need more time. On the surface of New Terra, Captain Hyunwoo coordinated the defense from a bunker deep underground. The civilians were already evacuating through underground tunnels to the transport ships on the far side of the planet. They had practiced this drill 100 times. How long until the evacuation is complete? He asked. 6 hours, Captain, his aide replied. We need to hold for 6 hours then. Hyunwoo pulled up the defense grid. The orbital platforms were damaged but still functional. The fleet was doing better than expected. Tell Admiral Subin we need her ships to fall back to defensive position Theta. The message went out. The human warships began retreating toward the planet. The Vrylon fleet pursued exactly as Hyunwoo hoped they would. As they entered the planet's gravity well, the surface-based weapons opened fire. Heavy railguns, missiles, and laser batteries. The Vrylon had not expected significant ground-based defenses. First blood to us, Hyunwoo said. But they will adapt. They always do. In orbit, Taeyang watched as his vanguard took unexpected casualties. 50 ships damaged, 12 destroyed. Not significant losses by themselves, but this was supposed to be a quick strike against a weak target. They had been fighting for 3 hours and the colony was still resisting. Deploy the assault legions, he ordered. Take the surface installations. Do-hyun's dropships launched from the carriers. Thousands of them, each carrying 100 Vrylon soldiers. They descended through the atmosphere under heavy fire. Human fighters harassed them constantly, but the dropships had thick armor. Most made it through. The Vrylon soldiers landed and immediately advanced on the colonial cities. They expected terrified civilians and scattered defenders. Instead, they found empty streets and prepared ambush positions. Where are they? A squad leader asked, scanning the abandoned buildings. The answer came in the form of explosions. Hidden charges detonated beneath advancing Vrylon units. Snipers fired from concealed positions. Small human teams struck quickly and vanished before the Vrylon could respond. Do-hyun coordinated the ground assault from his command ship. They are using guerrilla tactics. Spread out and search every building. But searching took time. Every room could hide an enemy. Every corner could conceal a trap. The Vrylon soldiers were stronger and tougher than humans, but the humans knew the territory. They had prepared for this. A Vrylon platoon entered what looked like a school building. They found it empty except for a single human sitting in a classroom. A young woman, barely out of her teens, unarmed. Surrender, the platoon leader commanded. The woman smiled. You first. She pressed a button. The building exploded. The entire platoon died instantly. When reinforcements searched the rubble, they found the woman's body. She had been sitting on top of the explosives. Do-hyun stared at the report in disbelief. She killed herself just to take out one platoon. It appears so, Battlemaster, his aide confirmed. And there have been 7 similar incidents in the past hour. These humans are fanatics. No, sir. I think they are something worse. They are willing. The battle for New Terra raged for 3 days, not 3 hours as Taeyang had predicted. 3 days of brutal, grinding combat. The Vrylon won every major engagement. Their technology was superior. Their soldiers were stronger. Their ships were more powerful. But the humans made them pay for every meter of ground. They used every tactic, no matter how desperate. They sacrificed pieces to protect the whole. They retreated when they could not win, and attacked when it seemed impossible. On the 3rd day, the last human warship exploded in orbit. The defense platforms went silent. The ground forces surrendered, but only after the civilians had completely evacuated. Admiral Subin transmitted a final message before her ship died. You won this battle, Vrylon, but look at what it cost you. Look at what we made you spend just to take one small colony. We have 46 more systems. How many ships will you have left when you reach Earth? Taeyang stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the casualty reports. 400 ships damaged, 160 destroyed, 20,000 soldiers dead or wounded, 40% casualties to take a single frontier colony. This is impossible, he said. We are Vrylon. We do not take 40% casualties. Heejin stood beside him, her face grim. I warned you, Commander. These humans do not fight like other species. They do not fear death the way others do. Everyone fears death, perhaps, but humans treat it differently. They call losses like this acceptable. No other species in the galaxy thinks this way. Du Hyun limped onto the bridge, his armor scorched and damaged. The colony is secured, Commander, but... He trailed off, unable to finish. But what? Taeyang demanded. But I do not know if we can do this 46 more times, sir. The men are shaken. They have never fought an enemy like this. Taeyang looked at the star map. 46 more systems, and Earth beyond them all. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Taeyang felt something he had never experienced before. He felt doubt. 18 months passed. The Apex fleet moved deeper into human territory, system by system. They won every major battle. The Vrylon ships were too powerful, their soldiers too numerous, but each victory cost more than the last. Taeyang studied the tactical map in his quarters. They had conquered 23 human systems. 24 more remained, plus Earth itself. But his fleet was no longer 10,000 ships. It was now 4,000. More than half his force was gone. The reinforcements will arrive in 3 months, Hyejin said. She looked tired. They all looked tired now. But High Command is concerned, Taeyang. This campaign was supposed to take 1 year. It has taken 18 months and we are only halfway through. The humans are persistent, Taeyang admitted. Every system they lose, they fight harder in the next. It is as if defeat makes them stronger. I have been studying their history. Hyejin pulled up data files. For 10,000 years, they fought wars among themselves. Brutal, total wars. They nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times. They have more experience with warfare than any species we have ever encountered. Not because they are naturally violent, but because they never stopped fighting long enough to forget how. Taeyang read through the files. Human wars. Thousands of them. They had names like World War I, World War II, the 100 Years' War, the 30 Years' War. Wars that lasted generations. Wars that killed millions. How did they survive? That is what makes them dangerous, Hyejin said. They learn to survive anything. Starvation, disease, nuclear weapons, climate disasters. Every time something should have destroyed them, they adapted instead. On the human colony of New Seoul, General Jae-won prepared his forces for the coming Vrylon assault. The civilians had been evacuated weeks ago. Only soldiers remained, and they knew this was a fight they would probably lose. Remember the training, Jae-won told his officers. We do not need to win. We only need to make them bleed. Every Vrylon we kill here is one less they have for the next fight. Every day we hold is one more day for our people to prepare. His second in command, a veteran named Kite, nodded. The mines are set. The buildings are rigged. We have supply caches hidden across the continent. They can take the cities, but we will make the countryside cost them. Good. The Vrylon fight like they are trying to win quickly. We fight like we have already lost everything. That is our advantage. The Vrylon fleet arrived 3 days later. Do-hyun led the assault, his forces landing in multiple locations simultaneously. But the cities were empty. The humans had retreated into the wilderness. Not this again, Do-hyun growled. He had seen this pattern in the last 6 systems. The humans would evacuate the population centers and wage guerrilla war from the countryside. It turned every planet into a long, grinding campaign. His soldiers spread out searching for the enemy. They found traps everywhere. Roads collapsed under their vehicles. Bridges exploded as they crossed. Snipers fired from kilometers away, then disappeared into the forests. Supply convoys were ambushed and destroyed. Sung-ho was a young Vrylon soldier in his first campaign. He had joined the military believing in the Dominion's superiority. Now he huddled in a foxhole on a human world, listening to gunfire in the distance. His squad had lost 3 soldiers that day. Not to a great battle, but to hidden explosives and distant snipers they never even saw. I do not understand them, his squad mate said. Why do they keep fighting? We have already won. We control the system. The civilians are gone. Why not surrender? Sung-ho did not have an answer. The humans should surrender. They had lost. But they did not seem to care about losing. They only cared about making the Vrylon pay. In orbit, Dr. Jiwoo continued studying captured human soldiers and recovered bodies. His findings troubled him deeply. He compiled a report and sent it to Taeyang. The commander read it slowly. Impossible pain tolerance. Extreme stress adaptation. Psychological resilience beyond any known species. Capable of functioning normally with injuries that would incapacitate most beings. He looked up at Jiwoo. How is this possible? Evolution, Commander. Humans evolved on a death world. Their planet tried to kill them for millions of years. Predators, diseases, climate extremes, natural disasters. Only the most stubborn individuals survive to reproduce. They have literally bred themselves to endure suffering. But they are so physically weak. Physically, yes. Mentally, they are the strongest species I have ever studied. They have a psychological trait we have never encountered. They can accept terrible circumstances and simply continue. They do not break. They bend, but they do not break. Taeyang dismissed the doctor and sat alone in his quarters. Outside his window, the Apex fleet hung in space, battered and tired. Half his soldiers were dead. The survivors were exhausted. Morale was low, and they still had 24 systems to conquer. On New Sol, the fighting continued for 2 months. J1's forces inflicted 5 casualties for everyone they took. They destroyed supply depots, sabotaged equipment, and made every day a nightmare for the Vrylon occupiers. But numbers eventually won. The humans ran out of supplies and ammunition. J1 gathered his remaining soldiers, less than 100 out of the original 5,000, and prepared for a final stand. We held them for 2 months, he told his troops. 2 months they could have spent conquering 2 or 3 other systems. We made them pay. Now we make them pay one more time. The final battle was brief and brutal. J1 died leading a charge against a Vrylon position. Kaite died holding a bridge long enough for wounded soldiers to escape. Only a handful of humans survived to become prisoners. Do-hyun stood over J1's body. The human general had fought to the very end, taking 3 Vrylon soldiers with him in his final moments. Why? Do-hyun asked the corpse. You could have surrendered. You could have lived, but he knew the answer. The humans did not fight to live. They fought because surrender was worse than death to them. How do you defeat an enemy like that? A medic called out. Battlemaster, this one is still alive. Do-hyun found a wounded human soldier, a young woman barely conscious. Her injuries were severe. She should be dead, but somehow she was still breathing. A medical scanner showed catastrophic internal damage. Yet she opened her eyes and looked at him. We held you, she whispered. 2 months. Worth it. Then she died, a smile on her face. Do-hyun stood slowly. Around him, his soldiers were checking bodies and securing the area. They had won. They had taken New Sol, but it had cost 2 months and thousands of lives to conquer one planet. He activated his communicator. Commander Taeyang, New Sol is secured. Casualties? Taeyang asked. 4,000 dead, Battlemaster. 8,000 wounded. Silence on the line. Then, acknowledged. Prepare for the next assault. Do-hyun closed the channel. He looked at the dead human soldiers around him. They had fought knowing they would lose. They had died protecting an already evacuated planet. They had sacrificed themselves just to slow the Vrylon advance, and there were 23 more systems just like this one. Back on the flagship, Hyejin found Taeyang staring at casualty reports. Commander, the reinforcements will arrive soon. We can continue the campaign, can we? Taeyang looked at her. We started with 10,000 ships and 500 million soldiers. We are down to 4,000 ships and less than 200 million soldiers, and we are only halfway to Earth. What will we have left when we arrive at their homeworld? I do not know, Hyejin admitted. Neither do I, Taeyang said. And that terrifies me. The intelligence report arrived during the night shift. Hyejin read it twice before taking it to Taeyang. She found him in the observation deck staring at the stars. We have found it, she said. Hope's Bastion, the human central command station. Taeyang took the data pad. The station was massive, larger than any human installation they had encountered. It was positioned in a strategic system, heavily defended. According to the intelligence, it coordinated all human military operations. How reliable is this information? He asked. It came from intercepted communications and captured data cores, multiple independent sources. I believe it is accurate. Taeyang studied the tactical analysis. If we destroy this station, we cut off their command structure. The remaining systems will fall quickly without coordination. That is the theory, yes. Hyejin hesitated. But Commander, it seems too convenient. We have been fighting for 2 years and suddenly we discover their central command. I'm suspicious. You are always suspicious, old friend. That is why I value you. Taeyang pulled up fleet dispositions. The reinforcements had arrived, bringing their numbers back to 6,000 ships. Still less than their starting strength, but enough for a major assault. But we cannot ignore this opportunity. If there is a chance to end this war quickly, we must take it. And if it is a trap, then we will spring it and destroy whatever they have prepared. In a hidden bunker on a moon near Hope's Bastion, Admiral Dae-jung reviewed the final preparations. The trap was set. Now they just needed the Vrylon to take the bait. "Are we ready?" he asked his command staff. Commander In-soo nodded. "The diversionary forces are in position. We have made Hope's Bastion look like our most important installation. All fake communications are being routed through it. The Vrylon intelligence will confirm what they want to believe. And our actual fleet, hidden behind planetary shields in 6 nearby systems. The moment the Vrylon commit to the assault, we close the trap." Engineer Minseo joined them, looking exhausted. She had spent 3 months converting Hope's Bastion into a weapon. "The gravitational pulse generator is ready. One shot, then it will tear itself apart. But that one shot will be worth it." Dae-jung looked at the station on the display. It would be destroyed in this battle. Thousands of people had built it. Now they would use it as bait and then a weapon. Make sure all non-essential personnel are evacuated. "I want only volunteers remaining on the station." "Already done, sir. Everyone who stayed knows the risks." The Apex fleet gathered at the staging point. Tae-yang addressed his commanders via holographic link. "This is our chance to end this war. We strike hard and fast. Destroy Hope's Bastion and the human command structure collapses. Then we finish this campaign and go home." Do-hyun looked skeptical but said nothing. He had learned to question everything when dealing with humans. Sung-ho, now a squad leader after surviving 2 years of brutal combat, felt a knot in his stomach. This felt wrong somehow. The fleet jumped to hyperspace. When they emerged, Hope's Bastion was before them. A massive station surrounded by defense platforms and a small fleet of perhaps 200 human ships. "Is that all?" Do-hyun asked. 200 ships to defend their central command? Perhaps they have committed everything to holding their other systems, Tae-yang suggested. But he felt it too. Something was wrong. Jin ran scan after scan. "I am detecting high-energy signatures from the station itself. Much higher than normal for a command facility. Weapons? Unknown. The signature is unlike anything we have seen before." Tae-yang made his decision. "We proceed. All ships attack formation. Destroy the defending fleet, then focus on the station. The human ships move to intercept." Commander In-soo led them personally, his small force weaving between the Vrylon dreadnoughts. They were outnumbered 30-1, but they fought with the same desperate tactics the Vrylon had learned to fear. "They are trying to delay us," Jin observed. "Buying time for something. For what? They cannot evacuate a station that size quickly." But Tae-yang ordered half the fleet to bypass the defenders and head directly for Hope's Bastion. As the Vrylon ships approached the station, Minseo gave the order. "Activate the generator." Hope's Bastion came alive with energy. The gravitational pulse generator hidden in the station's core powered up. Space itself began to warp around it. "Sir, massive energy spike from the station," the Vrylon sensor officer shouted. "It is not a command center, it is a weapon." "All ships retreat," Tae-yang ordered, but it was too late. The generator fired. A wave of gravitational force ripped through space, creating a temporary rift. 2,000 Vrylon ships caught in the pull were dragged toward it. Shields failed, hulls buckled, and ships disappeared into the anomaly. The generator tore itself apart after 10 seconds. The rift collapsed. Hope's Bastion exploded in a cascade of secondary detonations. But the damage was done. 2,000 Vrylon ships were gone. "Report," Tae-yang demanded, his voice shaking. 2,146 ships lost, sir. No survivors. The weapon destroyed itself in the firing. Tae-yang stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The humans had sacrificed an entire station. Thousands of their own people just to destroy a portion of his fleet. What kind of species does that? "Sir, enemy contacts." Sensors lit up with new signals. From behind planetary shields in 6 different systems, the human fleet emerged. Not 200 ships, thousands of ships. The entire human military force hidden and waiting. Admiral Dae-jung commanded the attack from his flagship. "All ships engage. This ends today." The battle turned into chaos. The Vrylon fleet was larger, but they were disorganized and shocked. The humans attacked with calculated precision, targeting damaged ships in isolated formations. Lieutenant Bo-ra, now a squadron commander, led her fighters into the heart of the Vrylon formation. "Remember, we do not need to destroy them all. We just need to break their will to fight. Her fighters struck at command ships and carriers, avoiding the heavy dreadnoughts. They were gnats attacking tigers, but gnats that knew exactly where to bite. Sung Ho's ship took heavy damage early in the battle. His captain was dead, his crew scattered. The ship spun out of control. He managed to reach an escape pod and launched just before the ship exploded. Floating in space, he watched the battle rage around him. The Vrylon were losing, not because the humans were stronger, but because the Vrylon no longer believed they could win. The shock of the trap, the loss of 2,000 ships had broken something in them. A human fighter approached his pod. Sung Ho tensed, expecting to be shot. Instead, the fighter pilot, Bora, scanned his pod and moved on. She was rescuing Vrylon survivors, saving the lives of enemies who had invaded her home. Sung Ho did not understand. Why would they show mercy now after 2 years of brutal warfare? On the flagship, Taeyang watched his fleet crumble. 4,000 ships were now down to 1,500. Do Hyun was dead, his assault carrier destroyed in the opening minutes. Thousands of his soldiers were dying. "Commander, we must retreat," Hyejin urged. "Where? We are surrounded." "Then we surrender." The Vrylon do not surrender. But even as he said it, Taeyang knew it was over. For the first time in 100,000 years, a Vrylon fleet faced total defeat. He opened a channel to all ships. "All vessels cease fire and hold position. Do not engage further." The words felt like poison, but he said them. "We surrender." Hyejin stood beside him as the human fleet closed in. "What have we done?" she whispered. Taeyang had no answer. They had come to conquer humans. Instead, humans had taught them what defeat felt like. The human ships surrounded the remaining Vrylon fleet. 300 ships, all that remained of the mighty Apex fleet. Taeyang stood on his bridge, waiting for the final strike. The honorable death in battle that every Vrylon warrior hoped for. Instead, Admiral Subin's face appeared on the view screen. "Vrylon fleet, this is Admiral Subin of the Human Defense Forces. Stand down your weapons and prepare to receive medical ships." Taeyang stared at the screen. "Medical ships? Your wounded need treatment. We are sending supplies and medical teams. Do not resist." The channel closed. Taeyang looked at Hyejin. "I do not understand. Why are they helping us?" "I do not know, Commander. This is not standard protocol for any species we have encountered." Over the next hour, human medical ships approached the damaged Vrylon vessels. Doctors and engineers came aboard, treating wounded and making emergency repairs. The Vrylon soldiers watched in confusion as their enemies worked to save their lives. Captain Hyunwoo led one of the medical teams. He found Taeyang on the bridge of the Eternal Dominance. The once proud flagship was heavily damaged, life support failing in several sections. "Commander Taeyang," Hyunwoo said, "we are here to help stabilize your ship and treat your wounded." "Why?" Taeyang asked. "We invaded your territory. We killed millions of your people. Why show mercy now?" Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment. "Because we know what it is like to fight ourselves. For thousands of years we killed each other. We got very good at it, but we also got good at forgiving. Otherwise, we would have destroyed ourselves long ago. Your species is strange." "Yes, we are." Hyunwoo smiled. "We are the species that survived 10,000 years of warfare by learning when to fight and when to forgive. Right now, you need forgiveness." Sung Ho was rescued by Bora's squadron. They brought him aboard a human medical ship where doctors treated his injuries. He expected to be interrogated or imprisoned. Instead, they gave him food and a place to rest. Bora visited him in the recovery bay. "How are you feeling?" "Confused," Sung Ho admitted. "You are being kind to us, after everything we did." "Being kind is not the same as forgetting," Bora said. "We remember what happened, but keeping you alive serves our purpose better than letting you die." "What purpose?" "You will go home and tell your people what happened here. That is more valuable than revenge." Over 3 weeks, the humans repaired enough Vrylon ships to make them spaceworthy. They provided fuel, food, and medical care. The Vrylon soldiers slowly began to understand. The humans were not just winning a battle. They were sending a message. Taeyang met with Admiral Daejung in person. The human admiral came aboard the Eternal Dominance alone, unarmed. a show of trust that Taeyang found remarkable. "Why did you not finish us?" Taeyang asked. "You had us beaten. You could have destroyed the entire fleet." Daejong sat across from him. "Because your deaths would accomplish nothing. But sending you home alive? That accomplishes everything." "I do not follow. You came here with 10,000 ships. You are leaving with 300. You will return to the Vrylon Dominion and tell them what happened. You will tell them that humans are not easy prey. You will tell them that we can be as terrible in war as we are merciful in peace. That message is worth more to us than your deaths." Taeyang felt the weight of those words. Daejong was right. When he returned home, his report would change everything the Vrylon believed about humans. President Kang Dae addressed the Vrylon fleet via holographic transmission. The human leader looked tired but determined. "Commander Taeyang, you came to our space to conquer us. You believed we were weak because we are young. You were wrong." Taeyang said nothing. There was nothing to say. "You will return to your people," Kang Dae continued. "And you will tell them this. Humans do not want war with the Vrylon Dominion, but if you come back we will fight. And we will win. Not because we are stronger or smarter, but because we have spent 10,000 years learning how to survive each other. We are very good at surviving." Ambassador Yoonji delivered the formal terms. The Vrylon would leave human territory and never return. In exchange, humans would not pursue them or seek revenge. It was a simple treaty, but it carried the weight of everything that had happened. "What if we refuse?" Taeyang asked. "Then we destroy you here and now," Yoonji said calmly. "And then we follow your reinforcements back to your territory and show the Dominion what happens when you make us angry. We prefer the peaceful option, but we are prepared for either." Taeyang signed the treaty. He had no other choice. The 300 surviving ships prepared to leave. Sung-ho stood on the observation deck of his vessel, watching the human fleet. Bora had given him something before he left, a data chip containing human history. "So you understand us better," she had said. He had spent the past 3 weeks reading it. The wars, the atrocities, the near extinctions, and yet somehow they survived. They learned, they adapted, they became dangerous not through evolution, but through experience. "They are terrifying," he said to his squad mate. "Because they are strong?" "No, because they have already survived their worst nightmare. Themselves. Compared to what they did to each other, we were nothing." The Vrylon fleet jumped to hyperspace. The journey home took 2 weeks. Taeyang spent that time preparing his report. How do you tell the Dominion that the greatest fleet in their history was defeated? How do you explain that humans showed mercy when they could have shown death? When they arrived home, the council was waiting. Taeyang stood before them once more, but this time, he was not a confident commander. He was a defeated soldier with a warning. "Report, Commander," Council Elder Vextar demanded. "We failed," Taeyang said simply. "We sent 10,000 ships against the humans. 300 returned. We are defeated." The council erupted in shock and anger. Questions flew from every direction. Taeyang answered them all honestly. He told them about human tactics, about their willingness to sacrifice anything to win, about their impossible determination. And then he told them about the mercy. "They let you live?" Vextar sounded incredulous. "Why?" "So we would return and tell you this," Taeyang said. "Humans do not want to fight the Dominion, but they will if we force them, and they will win." Hyejin stepped forward. "I have compiled a full analysis of human capabilities. Militarily, they are weaker than us in technology and numbers, but psychologically, they are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They have no surrender instinct. They treat survival as negotiable. And they have 10,000 years of experience in total warfare." The council debated for 3 days. In the end, they voted unanimously. The Vrylon Dominion would not engage humanity again. The cost was too high. Jiwoo published his findings in a classified report that spread through the Dominion's military. Humans are biologically unremarkable, but psychologically they are apex survivors. They evolved on a death world and then spent millennia killing each other. They are what happens when a species survives everything, including itself. On Earth, Admiral Subin gave a speech at a memorial for the fallen. Millions had died in the war. Entire colonies had been destroyed, but humanity had survived. "We did not want this war," she said, "but we ended it our way. We showed the Vrylon that humans can be terrible in our violence and generous in our mercy. We showed them that we fight not because we love war, but because we love what we are protecting more than we fear death." The war became known throughout the galaxy as the Vrylon's warning. The story spread to every species. The greatest fleet in the Dominion's history went to battle humans and returned broken, not by superior weapons but by an enemy that refused to quit. And the warning was clear. Do not fight humans unless you are prepared to pay a terrible price. They will make you earn every victory. They will make you bleed for every meter. And in the end, even if you win the battle, you might lose something more important: your belief that you can win it all.